Where there is despair, let us be people who bring hope. Where there is hatred, may we be people who bring the gift of love. May it be so.
Good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and take this off so you can hear me clearly. I am Brent Reeves, your Director of Diversity and Inclusion and International Student Services. I want to also welcome you to our MLK Humanitarian Awards and Ceremony program today at the Het. It's a special day today. It always is whenever we come together to recognize honored Americans such as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to thank all of you for being here, for braving the cold, I mean, it's easy to come up with 1,000 excuses and, oh, it's COVID and, so many different things, but I am so happy to see each and every one of you here. You warm my heart. Not only because we're up on stage here and worked to get this together, but to share in this day together. We always wish that, we could do it on the actual MLK Day, but it's the first day of school. It always is that way. And so we have to always bump it back a little bit in the week. And we go through, of course, as you know, all kinds of permutations and changes to, make things happen right at the beginning of the school year. But once again, it's a busy time, and we appreciate each and every one of you. And I do believe this is also the first time ever that we have streamed this ceremony. So technology is coming together, and we're able to reach out across not only the United States, but the world. And hopefully others will see this and share in our celebration here together today. I want to kind of set the tone. I always try to, do the best I can and give a vision of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I try to do, some little excerpts from things he said in the past and actions and kind of give a little perspective on him because he is the reason for our season today. So I will read to you and kind of talk a little bit about, speak to you from excerpts from an article that was written by Malika Jabali. Among the most famous examples of activism's expanding our imagination is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. The remarks in this speech have been conveniently misunderstood, not unlike much of King's legacy. Few people have actually listened to the full speech or even read it. Now, not only should you read it, you should read the whole thing. When you do read it, you will find that it's an indictment on the United States of America in a way that people don't really understand. My homework assignment for each of you is to simply read or listen to the entire speech. So tonight, homework assignment, okay? While King had the capacity to dream, he also highlighted America's nightmares. He noted that Black people are on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity, said Dr. King. Dr. King also explicitly criticized police violence in the 1963 speech. We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality, he said. Some of you have come from fresh, narrow jail cells. He addressed the crowd attending the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality, King added. King's own experiences with the carceral state and how policing has been used to maintain a white power structure that he was fighting. There is this recounting of a tale of King driving nervously down the street. But he's got police motorcycles that he's noticed in his rearview mirror. They're trailing him. He looks at his speedometer, and he's making sure that he's following every single traffic law. Then he stops to let a passenger out of his car, and the motorcycles pull up towards him. And that's when a couple of cops demand that he gets out of his car, and they arrest him. And soon a patrol car comes and takes him over to the jail. This is in Montgomery, Alabama in 1956, and King has just been arrested for the first time. And they arrested him because he supposedly was driving 30 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour zone. Now, we all know the real reason they stopped him is that he was using his car to help ferry people who had been participating in the Montgomery bus boycott to and from their jobs. I think there's a lot to learn in this story. King's first arrest was for something seemingly not a big deal, but it was very controversial because he was trying to basically take down the segregated power system in Montgomery. King was a young adult, having turned 27 about a month before that first arrest. Not much older than many of you university students here now. King would go on to be arrested for his civil rights organizing 28 more times. Without the support of his organizational networks, King may not have had the freedom to build upon his activism or dream about a better future for Black people in America. Now, I'm not here to advocate you getting arrested, but I am saying that the reasons Martin was arrested so many times are just as present today as they were in Montgomery, Alabama in the 1950s. So, at this time is always an issue here for our ceremony. We'd like to move on with the program, and our next order of business is our guest vocalist. And I shall read from her bio quickly as she comes forward. She's there already, okay. Christine Brewer, McKendree alumna, 76. Grammy Award-winning American soprano Christine Brewer's appearances in opera, concert, and recital are marked by her own unique timbre, at once warm and brilliant, combined with a vibrant personality and emotional honesty reminiscent of the great sopranos of the past. Named one of the top 20 sopranos of all time by BBC Music. Her range, golden tone, boundless power, and control make her a favorite of the stage and a highly sought-after recording artist. One who is in her prime and sounding glorious, said Anthony Tomasini of the New York Times. I'll leave the rest for you to read and review, but at this time, we'd like to present to you McKendree's own Christine Brewer. No pressure, none.
I'm going to sing with Melissa today. I'm going to sing the great composer Margaret Bond's arrangement of He's Got the Whole World in His Hand.
He's got
Just as they would say in the theater, bravo, bravo, bravo. Well, at this time, we move on to our, I always want, at this point, I usually say this is the top part of the program, but we've got so many top parts today this year. So following up with Christine and her vocal tones is wonderful. Always, I see angels, Christine, whenever I hear you. So we're moving on with the program to another highlight, I'll call it that, of this event, of the celebration. This is where we honor McKendree, let's just say folk, who have exemplified the traditions and the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King by their actions. Not just words, not just thoughts, but with their actual actions. And we, many years ago, my colleague Tim Harrison, who's in the audience, recently retired. Let's give him a round of applause because he has served McKendree so well. Initiated this program, and it's been going steady for, I don't know, Tim, how many years? 15, 20, who knows? A long time. And we recognize it could be anywhere from one person to multiple people. One year we had the winners. The winners were the entire cast of the Laramie Project that was done here a number of years ago. So however the committee goes and flows, that's the way we do it, and we want to just recognize humanitarian service, kindness, honesty, justness in someone that is on the campus, whether it's faculty, staff, students, or community partners. So this year, the committee deliberated. We had nominations from the campus for basically 2 categories this year. We had no one nominated from the faculty staff side. That doesn't mean they didn't do any great work out there, but they just didn't submit. No one submitted nominations in that category. But we also definitely have student nominees and, of course, a student winner. And then we also, the committee created a special category of Lifetime Achiever. And this is the first year that this has been offered, and we will honor the awardee here in a second for that one. So at this point, I would like to call forward our student winner for the 2021-2022 Martin Luther King Student Humanitarian Award winner, which is the SGA president this year, Mr. Emmanuel Segbedzi. Please, Emmanuel. We'll have. They've got pictures of it. There we go. If you'd like to say a word or two, here, I'll hold that for you. You're welcome.
Thank you all for making it here. It's a great pleasure. This is the first time I had to write a speech in basically my native language before translated into an actual English. So it means a lot to me. I know a legend who woke up to a call, arise and shine. He was ready to sacrifice, visionary to lead, intelligent to implement, confident to acknowledge the process of the calling, and determined to manifest the call. I know a legend. In humility and obedience, he indeed rose and shined with love and courage. His accomplishment was not just the success, but value and bravery. For his value, I say it is what it is. I know a legend who set the pace for peace, like faith was working in me as well. I myself, including other generations, have decided continue and uphold this legacy. I know a legend who humbly shared his honor. With the same motive, I want to say I am very pleased to be nominated for this year's Dr. Martin Luther King Humanitarian Award. I know a legend who will strive selflessly to honor those who made his dream a reality. So I want to say this award is not a presentation to me alone, but to all my friends, faculty, and groups that made our gathering here possible. President Devin, Dr. Johnny Baston, Reverend Tim, Reverend Beverly, and Mr. Brent. Thank you for your motivation and courage. Your words of wisdom will always enlighten my path with desire and passion. To my supporting families, the Dickies, the Fairley family, Michelle, Jimenez, Sandretti, Eska, and Gebel family, thank you for your continued support and advice. To my coaches and professors, I say your knowledge ignites my potential to bring out my best in this community. There are other institutions that seem not to be part of campus, but their sacrifice having to be part of the building blocks of students' life here, including myself. Thank you, St. Joseph Catholic Church, Ecclesia Ministry, and the United Methodist Church. And to all my friends gathered here, thank you and I love you all. You play a major role on campus to foster peace and conducive environment for academic and extracurricular activity progress. Above all else, I have a God who has nurtured the seed standing before you today, a God whose unconditional love has brought me this far. Unto him be the honor and glory now and forever. Moreover, I have a legend whose name and award has a testimony. I want to say this award is a testimony that the role of peace and justice, tolerance and trustworthy, unity and honor, faith and selflessness, and see the positivity in everyone with joy, plays a unique role in our society. I know a legend who made a significant impact in the needs of his community. In learning this, I have realized that by acknowledging one's need and vision can emphasize the many other needs, including problem solving and ideology. Thus, true peace is merely the absence of tension. It's not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. The legend I know is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you. Muchas gracias. God bless you all.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. The next presentee, I don't know if I can do this without choking up a little bit here, but I've known this gentleman since almost the time I've been here at McKendree. I think I preceded him by about maybe 6 months or something. But ever since then, he's been my I want to say partner in crime, but nothing like that, partner in prayer, friend. You know, whenever I, moved or something like that, the first person there to help me lift furniture was this guy. And, those kinds of, activities or just thoughtfulness is very rare and it's uncommon. But not only did he share those kinds of, things with me, he's done that with almost everybody I know who knows him. When he came to me, kind of before it was announced, and said, "Brent, I'm gonna retire." I was like stunned. I just, didn't expect it, didn't see it coming, and I just started immediately while he was even talking. I was going, "What are we gonna do without him? How am I gonna make it, without him?" He's been such a strong supporter. Oh, we've gone through a couple of divorces, both of us together. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So I guess without further ado, I could just stand up here and talk about this man all day, but I will not. He knows who he is, so if he'll start walking toward the stage, I want to say our first Lifetime Achievement Award winner is the Reverend Dr. Tim Bruce Harrison, please. Just a second. Hold it for you.
I'm grateful Brent didn't tell my whole life story there, but we do have a lot to share. It's great to be back with you all, and I'm humbled and honored with this award. Thank you so much. It means a lot. I miss you all, even though I'm not that far away, but I still miss you. I miss Emmanuel, and I'm so grateful. It's thrilling for me to be able to share this time with him today, too. But as many of you know, I'm in the church now working, and as I was thinking about today, it's great to come home and see people. I also think, with this award, wouldn't it be great? It's great that we give this award, but wouldn't it be great if we never had to give this award? I thought about that a lot. People ask me, when we gave this award out to others, why giving it to me? And I said, well, you're inspiring other people. And that's true. I think that we give this award to inspire others to continue this, but what's wrong with just being human? Why can't we just be human and we wouldn't even have to give this award out? For me, that's my goal. That's my prayer, that someday, some way, that we will all come to that situation where we love and care for one another and we don't even have to give this award out. But thank you so much. It's a special day for me. It means so much, and I appreciate my friends here who just have welcomed me back, and this is a special award. So thank you. God bless you all. Thank you.
Can we give another round of applause to our awardees this year for the Martin Luther King Humanitarian Award, McKendree University. Okay, just moving on with the program here. It is time that I introduce our, let's see, guest speaker, yeah. Our guest speaker, we didn't have any rehearsals for this, so I'm just kind of, okay, I follow the program. Our guest speaker this year is Dr. Karla Scott. She is professor of communications at St. Louis University and author of the book, The Language of Strong Black Womanhood. By the way, she will be in the lobby with a few copies of her books to autograph, so if you have your Cash Apps and all that other fancy, electronic stuff, please have it ready. Dr. Scott has her teaching and research focus on Black women's lived experiences across communicative contexts and dialogue strategies across identity differences and racial divisions. A proud native of East St. Louis, Illinois, she joined the SLU Department of Communication faculty in 1994 and served as director of the African American Studies program from 2000 to 2013, transforming the curriculum from a certificate program to an academic major. And I don't know if many of you are familiar with how the academy works, but to take a department from a program to a full division, it's incredible work. She has also served as Assistant Dean for Diversity and Inclusion in the College of Arts and Sciences. She is the recipient of 4 St. Louis University Teaching Awards, a College of Arts and Sciences Mentoring Award, and the Donald G. Brennan Humanitarian Award. So her version of what we do here for MLK, she won at SLU. So once again, I will leave the rest of the program and bio for you to read, but I just want to say it's been a while that I've wanted to try to have Dr. Scott come here, and things just didn't add up until today, where all the planets aligned, and it made it possible for her to be here and share some of her wisdom and knowledge and celebrate with us the legacy of Martin Luther King and our honorees for the awards. So without further ado, I bring to the podium Dr. Karla Scott.
I have a lot of stuff I need to juggle, so give me a moment here while I do that. I have my own mic, so I can walk around. But I may just stay here if that's fine. If you all can hear me with this one, I may not move much. I'm going to be tech savvy and read my notes from my phone. We'll see how that goes. So as I get situated, I think I can take off my mask here and then it will recognize me. 2 years in, I still don't know why it doesn't recognize me, right? And I'm always befuddled. Why aren't you waking up when you see me? So I want to thank Brent for that introduction. It has been a while. We've been trying to get me up here. As you've heard, I'm a native of East St. Louis. I've long admired this campus and learning more about the history. I'm always encouraged to learn backstories. As I say, as a communications scholar, I believe backstory is important. I just want to point out, I didn't just wear purple because I'm speaking here today. I wear purple every day. Here's a couple of questions that you can, refer to later in the semester. Purple is the color of the women's movement. The suffragettes at the first wave of the women's movement wore sashes that were purple, green, and white. The green and white disappeared, the purple remained. That is why Alice Walker, by the way, titled her book, The Color Purple. I like to say I don't make a fashion statement, so I make a political statement, okay? And this is true, women, in many ways, we say women have arrived, there is equality, but women still make 76 cents to the dollar. For black women, it's 64, Latina, 52, Native women, we don't even have statistics for that. So we still have a long way to go. I do also want to acknowledge, I just realized my cousin's here. So good to see you, thank you for coming. That's so neat, because I know you all are family and I was feeling like when I come onto a campus that I'm not a member of, it's this odd moment of, trying to connect with someone. So I look over and see him looking like his dad and go, I know him, Millard Curtis. So I hope he will join you all in doing wonderful work. I'm also proud to be present at this ceremony today where you have honored recipients for humanitarianism. Okay, second question maybe of the day. Maybe there'll be a pop quiz after this, who knows? I looked up the word humanitarian, and it's one who is concerned with welfare and well-being of society or individuals, right? Someone who has demonstrated care and concern for others, and I certainly heard that as we learned about the two recipients of the awards today. Congratulations to you both. But I also want to take a moment to talk about well-being as a concept I've been thinking about a lot lately. We're in a pandemic. We're going into, the second year now? And so well-being is a constant for me. And I think as a society, we can say globally, even we have never experienced anything that we've been living through. And so well-being is always at the front of my mind. So what I would like to do in light of this reality that we're living with, before I begin my remarks today, is to ask that we create in this space an opportunity to hold space for all that we're bringing to this moment. And for those who are not here, to hold space for the pain, the grief, the loss, the uncertainty, and the fear of moving forward. Let's hold space for one another here. And may our mantra be, grace is a given. As we continue to live lives in this very difficult place where there are no handbooks, there are no manuals, no maps, or even GPS, all right, to help us navigate. We're trying to get through this the best way that we can. So let us all set an intention to practice in our own lives what we have seen these two award winners demonstrate in their humanitarian commitment. Let us be committed to the welfare and well-being of others. This is the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King that we are going to talk about today. No doubt on Monday, you heard, read, saw much about Dr. King's life and his work as a civil rights leader. And as I look across the room, okay, I'm going to be very honest. Many of you were born in the late 20th or early 21st century, well aware of that, right? And so you relate to what you hear as sort of this long ago history, a story that's told. But I'm checking the demographic. I think there are a few of us here who may actually remember when he died and what that impact was like. Some of the elders here, certainly I'm not putting myself in that category yet, but I too remember vividly the impact of his death on Black communities, where he was this champion. Everything you've heard about him this week, he was this champion for civil rights. He worked relentlessly for the welfare and well-being of those who had lived without basic human rights for centuries. Sit with that, centuries. So what I'd like to do today is not emphasize just his role as a civil rights leader, of course he was that, but also his legacy affirming humanity. Yes, he was a humanitarian concerned with the well-being of all people. And when I talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I'm intentional to always offer some takeaways, something for you to think about, maybe even raise your hand in class later in the semester and say, but you know what, I heard, and it wasn't on Google, although I'll give you sites and you can look it up on Google if you'd like. But I want you to go beyond what you got on Facebook and Instagram this week and offer information you may not have known before. And so, yes, I am a teacher, and by the way, I'm on sabbatical this semester, yay. So there's a part of me, it's the second week of January, I should be teaching, right? So if I go into that mode, forgive me, we won't have a quiz at the end of this, but I might follow up, if I find a way to find out what classes you're in and say, how did you use this information you learned today? So I would like to now ask a question, and Doug is going to help me with that by magically having a slide up here. Thank you, Doug. My question, what name was Dr. Martin Luther King given at birth? Who knows this? I don't know, Rev Bev, I was going to say you can't play, but hang on a second. Anyone know this? What was his given name? The name that was on his initial birth certificate before it was changed. Rev? Oh, no, there's a hand out there. Maybe is there a, oh, okay, a hand. Who? Michael. Michael. How many of you are going, I never knew that? That's one of the things we don't hear about Dr. King. And again, something I like to offer as a takeaway whenever I speak of him, because it lends itself to some explanation of how his father changed both his name and his son's name. His father, Reverend Martin Luther King Sr., was pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church. There was a World Baptist Alliance held in Europe. And at the time, 1934, Nazism was on the rise. The elder King was impressed by this statement and moved so by this statement and what he learned about Martin Luther, the leader of the Reformation. I grew up Lutheran, so I know quite a bit about Luther. We don't need to talk about that right here, other than he motivated Father King to come back and change both his name and his son's name. So creating sort of this path of what your work as a humanitarian would be. Those words of the Congress actually deplores and condemned oppression and the violation of human rights. So from a very early age, Martin Luther became aware of his sort of charge as a humanitarian. And we know he fought for equality. He fought for equal rights of all. These are the images we see, once again, of the civil rights movement. These are some of his quotes. You may have some favorites of your own. This is where I think we need to remember the way he framed the work he did. It was not just for that moment, but he often provided the backstory for folks to understand why this was such a crucial time and such an important struggle. In 1863, the Negro was granted freedom from physical slavery through the Emancipation Proclamation, but he was not given land to make that freedom meaningful. Again, sit with that. What does that mean? What are the implications? When, as he goes on to say, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the Midwest and the West, which meant the nation was willing to undergird white peasants from Europe with an economic floor while refusing to do it for its black peasants from Africa who were held in slavery 244 years. And as he talked about an economic floor, we're talking not just equality, but equity. How many of you have seen this image at the top? We talk about equality, everyone gets the same. Everyone should be the same. Well, we know, as Dr. King just described that backstory, everyone isn't at the same starting place. So this is why we need to focus on equity in the 21st century as we live his legacy. Equity, everyone gets what they need to support access to pursuing the American dream. In the case of our country, we know this, of course, is an issue globally, but also to move toward well-being. Why is this an ongoing fight? I'm just going to pause for a moment. This is a very, very difficult quote, but I share it because I think we need to understand how dehumanization, particularly of people of African descent, was legalized in this country. This was an actual Supreme Court judge stating this. The black man has no rights, which the white man is bound to respect. He may justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery and treated as an ordinary article of traffic and merchandise, not a human being. So when we talk about affirming humanity today, we have to understand this struggle goes way back, which is why when Dr. King was in Memphis in 1968, at the time he was assassinated, the sanitation workers were striking, and we have these iconic images of the signs they carried, affirming, I am a man. Now, I'm a good feminist, so of course I have to give time for the sisters here. I am a woman. The image on the left here is actually an image from the abolitionist movement, from pamphlets that also included a silhouette of a man, but this is a woman. Am I not a woman and a sister? And of course, that was something Maria Stewart quoted, but you're also very, very familiar, I'm sure, with Sojourner Truth's speech, ain't I a woman? We are still fighting for full humanity, indigenous people as well. I found this, and I want to see this movie. I Am a Man. Standing Bear is a Person is the book. We also know the history of Native people, First Nation people in this country as well, and the dehumanization that they continue to live with. And again, talk about inequity. Think about the pandemic and the numbers on the reservations where they have not had access to support well-being. Now, some of you might be squirming, going, ooh, this sounds a little close to some critical race theory. What's that called? Oh, we're not supposed to be talking about that, are we? Well, guess what? Martin Luther King was a critical race theorist. Sit with that a moment. He lived his life as a critical race theorist. This came across my Facebook page 2 days ago. This is a young artist who wanted to depict what critical race theory is, folks. It's like you cannot whitewash the reality of what happened to Black, indigenous people of color in this country. Critical race theory is not intended to make anyone feel bad. Critical race theory is not intended to indoctrinate your children to hate being white. Let's just break this down for a moment. Theory, what's a theory? Okay, I'm going into class mode here. What's theory? Somebody give me not a textbook definition. What's a theory? It's an explanation of how something works, right? How something works. You know, you all have those conversations with your friends or parents where you're going, here's what I think is happening. That's your theory, right? We all have theories. It explains how something happens, why it's happening. Critical. People think that has to mean negative. Well, no, we have movie critics, right? We have food critics. How many of you go to a restaurant because some food critic has said it's good? Not just Yelp, but the food critics say it's good, right? We have book critics. So these are people who are reading from their particular location. Maybe some of them have education that's trained them to discern what's good on the palate, or they know how words sound, and so they are able to more review and sort of analyze what makes one book a good book versus another, but it all depends on their location, sort of what they're bringing. Critical race theory is similar. These are scholars who said, you know, the history of oppression and marginalization, and not just disenfranchisement, but dehumanization in this country was omitted in a lot of the story, the narrative that's told about the United States. Now, of course, this is a global issue. I'm just going to use it in the US for us here. We need to, yes, go back and retell that, but we're not altering history. Yeah, we are altering it if you think just retelling it so that it is accurate is altering it. But it deserves to be told because that is a critical part of affirming humanity. To whitewash, you're erasing, and we know there's been a lot of the erasure of people of African descent, native peoples in this country. Critical race theory is not just, you know, someone's writing a review again on Yelp because the lava cake wasn't good and it ruined their birthday dinner. Critical race theory is being talked about and discussed at a time when there are now people in positions to do that. Because for centuries, we know there were those in positions of power and privilege, and I'll go, okay, there goes that word, the privilege word. Yes, sit with that if it makes you uncomfortable. We don't have time to go into a deep dive with privilege, but there were people who got to tell the story. We need to think about who didn't get to tell the story. And now we're at a place and a space, and my students over at SLU would cringe if they knew I was touting social media and saying, yay, thanks to social media, we can start to change that story. So what I argue, well, I'm going into conference presentation mode now, but what I would like for you to take away is that, yes, while the sanitation workers on the left, again, that iconic sign, were fighting for their humanity, protesting for their humanity, we have on the right an image taken at the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, where, as you may know, Dr. King was when he was assassinated, what may be a father and son, but certainly a two-generation split, holding the sign. And before I move too far from that, I would just like to say, if you have not been there, let me stop and ask, how many of you have visited the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis? A powerful backstory if you want to fully comprehend the dehumanization of blacks in this country. Again, this is a global issue, but in this country. First time I went there in 2008 was with my mother, and halfway through she said, I can't do this, I live this. And we left. But this is where you can actually see, and that's not critical race theory, folks, that's the reality. But this is what critical race theorists are saying. We need to acknowledge this as a reality. I also bring into, when I talk about why it's important now to affirm humanity, I have to do this because I've spent 27 years at St. Louis University, and though I grew up Lutheran, I've spent a whole lot of time with Catholics. I think I must have been Catholic in a previous life, maybe. But as some of you may or may not know, St. Louis University is a Jesuit institution. So that means we are run, that's the Society of Jesus. Ignatius of Loyola was the founder of the Jesuit order. Actually, Brother Brent here worked at SLU. We were there maybe 2 years before I came, before you left, I was there. Some call the Jesuits sort of the rogues of the Catholic Church. The current Pope is a Jesuit, and I'm always proud of that. But what I like about Loyola, Ignatius of Loyola, is he has several quotes. You learn those, you know, at your institution. My favorite is that we should find God in all things. And I encourage you to think of the God of your own understanding. But I also like to think of it as the divine, right? But he said to find God in all things. And I often ask my students, and I will challenge anyone to say, why is it we think that there's more God in some things than others? Even the earth. Think about what's going on. I can go into a climate change conversation right here, but I won't. Even, you know, to think about what we're experiencing with earth. Find God in all things. To me, that's the work of humanitarians, because that care and concern for well-being speaks to nurturing the connection that is in all things, because there is that divine spark. Living Dr. King's legacy, to me now, is affirming humanity. I like the quote on the right. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And I put that there because often we'll say, well, what can I do now if this problem is so huge and I'm so little? You know, I can't go out and protest. There are a million things people say, well, I can't do. You can affect change. I'm a communication scholar. You can affect change with the words you use. That's another class. We could talk about that, certainly. But what I want you to think about is what I value as the Martin Luther King quote I love the most. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And that today is the takeaway. I would like for you to leave thinking not just the images you saw on Monday, not just the warm quotes that people post on Facebook, not just the snippets of his speech that you may hear that say we should be all judged by the content of our character. I want you to think about what you as an individual can do to affirm humanity every single day in everything you do here in the 21st century. I thank you all for being here today on the coldest day we've had so far. That took a lot of fortitude to go out here. And as we continue to live in this challenging time, again, I hope you remain committed to not just your own well-being, but the well-being of others. And as you make your way through, please stay safe, and may your journey be smooth. Thank you. I did it, Mr.
I blew it on the mouth. It's locked up in the room. Karla, you got a standing ovation. How about that? Just a quick backstory. Of course, we, had to compensate Dr. Scott for her time with a stipend honorarium. And, she was like, okay, cool, whatever. But you know what she really wanted? And I kind of blew it because I was going to give it to her after she presented, but I left it in the green room locked up. So I was like, oh, shoot. But she said, I want one of your purple masks. So I did. I hunted one down for her because, as you all know, those are kind of rare around here now. And but Karla, I promise you, after this is over, I'll go get you your purple mask. But let's give her one more round of applause from McKendree. We will now move on to our last couple of bits of the program, and thank you all for being patient with us today. We'll have the closing hymn, Lift Every Voice and Sing, and it is traditional that you do stand when we do sing this. So as we start, you can stand. The words are in your program.
Well, finally, I got to do something that I've wanted to do for 30 years. I got to sing with Christine Brewer. I mostly got to listen to her, and it was absolutely beautiful. I have to invite you again to help me thank Miss Christine Brewer for being with us today, our very own McKendree grad. Thank you for making this a priority to come out and be with us. Dr. Scott, you have given us much to think about, much to ponder, and you have launched us into a beautiful 2022, thinking about what each one of us can do to make our world a better place. Help me welcome and thank Dr. Scott for making us a priority today. Be remiss if Brent and I did not both also thank President Dobbin for making this a priority and encouraging our staff and faculty to come and be a part of this day. Help me thank Dr. Dobbins for making this opportunity a priority. And I am delighted. I have known Tim Harris for many, many years, and I just want to say I am so grateful, Tim, for all of the work that you have done, not just in the context of McKendree, but what you have done with McKendree University students to touch the lives of some of the most vulnerable people on the planet through the Lynn Huxford Center for Community Service and your time as chaplain of McKendree. The world is a better place because of Timothy Bruce Harris. I also want to say that Emmanuel is at the beginning of making a difference, and he has already touched our lives. He touched the lives of those of us here on campus, but he is equally committed to the people throughout the Metro East, and it is not uncommon to find him volunteering with the elderly here in the Lebanon community, just doing what his heart has called him to do. And the thing that I have the pleasure of saying is that McKendree University ought to be proud of itself because you have many Emmanuels on this campus, students who are giving not only excellence in academia, but excellence in community service. So I thank you. I want to thank the person who sort of heads up our part of the world in student affairs, Dr. Joni Bastian, for making it possible for Brent and I to work together. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support. Thank you all for being here today. I invite you to do one thing today. Make a covenant to go out and change your world. Because if your world changes, my world changes. So can we covenant together to make our world a better place, not just for ourselves, but for all people? Let's do it together, and let it start today with each of us. Have a wonderful spring 2022. God bless you all.
Just a quick reminder, Dr. Scott will be out in the lobby signing her books. If you'd like to get a copy, I would like to highly encourage that. And once again, stay safe, stay warm. Don't let anybody cough on you, anything like that. Be safe, be healthy. Have a good night. Thank you.